Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Productions channel here at YouTube. Welcome to another currently listening to. This, of course, again is all CDs, but this time I decided to thrash it out. Yes, I got on a little bit of a thrash metal kick. So, though I probably wouldn't say a little because there's almost the same amount of CDs as there was in the last currently listening to. So, all of here is pretty much. So, was it 14 CDs basically of thrash metal albums, though with maybe one or two maybe speed metal or kind of albums. So let's just go in. Let me just get this all down. Now let me kind of start off with some of the more American ones, because I also pulled out quite a bit of German thrash stuff. So let's just go right in, pull out the more American ones first. All of these are pretty good, though. Here you go. Alright, here we go. I've definitely pulled out the ones here. First one up, let's start off with a... you know what? Do I want to go that... Yeah, you know what? This is probably perfect in the order. So, alright. First one's a classic. I hadn't listened to this one in a... God, how many... I want to say it's been 9 years, I guess, since I actually listened to this one. Though I probably could say maybe 5 years ago, 10 or 6 years ago. But I'll say we're almost getting closer to the month when I actually really gave this album an actual listen. As of course is Forbidden Evil from Forbidden, and this is fucking great. This album is just a really good fucking album still. Probably definitely one of my all-time favorite thrash metal albums, besides also being one of my favorite albums from Forbidden and one of my favorite thrash metal debuts. But for me, this is one of my all-time favorite thrash metal albums of all time, basically. This, of course, is the 2009 Japanese reissue by King Records, which, of course, it's basically the Japanese version of the Century Media 2008 remaster, but here it's in like a mini LP style, so it really kind of replicates the original Combat Records layout and everything, that pressing. So the sleeve and everything's pretty much identical, it's just that in miniature format to fit the CD. So, still, really good album. One of my all-time favorite thrash metal albums. So, Forbidden Evil from Forbidden. I know the only other Forbidden album that I own is from Mega Wave. Their last album, released pretty much, 2010 or 2010. Which is a good album. Though I haven't heard it since when I got that album when it came out. So that album's probably deserving of another listen. Also, I haven't heard Twisted in the Form, and I haven't heard the other two. But for me, this is definitely still, even then, this will still be one of their best albums for sure. Just really good. It's a really, really good thrash metal album from that second wave of thrash metal bands out of San Francisco. Great stuff. Next up is another classic, of course, Seven Churches from Possessed. Definitely more so, almost closer to that death thrash kind of sound, but them being one of the more innovators of that, but it's still pretty much rooted within thrash for sure. Just a classic album. I don't need to say much. Though I'll definitely give out a little hint. I will definitely do a review of the most recent Possessed album. Though technically I don't own it physically, but I have at least someone gave me a burned copy of it. My brother had given me a burned copy, so I'll probably end up doing a review of that one. Maybe at some point I might buy myself an actual copy, but for now, I'm fine with some of these earlier Possessed sounds for sure. Seven Churches. Next up, of course, though technically, I would actually call this album a straight-up thrash metal album. This, of course, is Indulgence from Nasty Savage. Of course, backed with the Abstract Reality EP, which fits perfect with this. It just fits perfect with this album. Everything's good. It's like a really good extension of this. So, classic release from Nasty Savage. Here's a more obscure one right here. This, of course, is Destined for Extinction from Blessed Death. This was their second album. Their first one was titled Kill or Be Killed. I don't have that album, but this one I found relatively cheap many years ago. This is, of course, the Metal Mine pressing. Good album. This is a straight-up hardcore thrasher. Of course, some of these two, mostly the Nasty Savage and the Forbidden, are definitely almost on the technical side. This one's not. There's a straight-up, just more hardcore thrash. Very much similar to, like, Slayer, mostly Rain and Blood, or... trying to think of another sort of band that I can probably really compare this to. If it comes but still... just a classic album. It's very. I would say I'll probably also put this next to like the more German-sounding albums in some places, because it's just straight up no nonsense. Like maybe like Onslaught is probably another one. Like mostly Power from Hell and those kind of albums. It's just straight up in your face, raw, hardcore thrash. Just 33 minutes, just ball busting. Good album. Definitely good stuff from Blessed Death. Now, the last one of the American ones here. This album, of course, goes into more of the crossover style of thrash, because I wanted to find something to kind of get me in that kind of mood, because I'll be seeing DRI next month. But this band, it's not DRI, but it's COC, Corrosion of Conformity. This, of course, is their second album, Animosity. The last one before they decided to go on decided to be stoner, sludge, whatever the hell they decided to be after this. This is their only time they actually tried to go on the thrash route. They're technically more of a hardcore punk band, but they definitely went in that. Solid album. Definitely not an album I pull out every once in a while, because I'm just not in that kind of mood these days to listen to more punkier style of thrash stuff, even though I'll pull out stuff that's a little more faster, raw, and more in your face, but this one's not bad. I think I actually like this. With each more listens over time, I actually like it more and more. It's definitely a solid album. The only Corrosion of Conformity album that I own, but still fine, still good. Definitely 26 minutes basically, so it's really short. But for this kind of album, it doesn't overstay its welcome for me. So, on Animosity from Corrosion of Conformity. That's it for all the American ones. So let's just finally just get into the more German ones and try and really speed this video up. We'll go this route and there. Here we go. I think I'm just gonna, just like with the American stack of thrash ones I pulled out that I had listened to, just like how I start with the more classic ones, I'll start with some of the more classic German ones. So, classic here. Possessed by Fire from Exhumer. Just a classic album. It's still good. This album does not let me down, and with every listen, it knows what it does every time I put it on. It just knows what it does. It's a great album. If you don't, for those that are not that haven't even checked out Exhumer, I've done reviews of some of these Exhumer albums, but this is definitely a good starting point for those. I know the later stuff's good, especially the Raging Tides. That one's also pretty good, but this one's good too. Actually, there really isn't a bad Exhumer album. As far as I know, there's not a bad one. They're all at least good in their own right. There's a solid band. that didn't get the due that they deserved back in the 1980s, but these days they finally are getting recognized for what they should have been recognized for a long time. They should have been up there with bands like Destruction or Sodom, Creator, those kind of bands. They should have been. Just great stuff from Exhumer. Another German thrash one that I think that should have deserved a little bit of some respect. This is Assassin. This, of course, is the Chronicles of Resistance comp, which basically, it's a 2 CD comp that basically includes their first 2 albums, being The Upcoming Terror and Interstellar Experience. The Upcoming Terror is a classic. I'll put that right next to Possessed by Fire as some of the great German thrash albums, even like some of the best from Sodom or Creator, or even Destruction for that matter. I just would put that right next to some of those. However, the second album, Interstellar Experience, took me many years to actually finally appreciate the album, because it's not nearly as raw nor as chaotic, but it's still very heavy and still very harsh in its style. It's a little shorter than The Upcoming Terror, but it still has a great thrash. It's still great thrash. Still great German thrash. Of course, it was produced by Harris Johns, who of course produced Possessed by Fire and many of the Sodom albums and Halloween's EP and Walls of Jericho and those stuff. Good, just a great album. Which, of course, The Upcoming Terror was actually produced by Kyle Trapp, who did, I think that's probably the way to pronounce his name. He's produced many for, like, Violent Force, Destruction, the Release from Agony album, and those kind of bands. So definitely difference in certain of, like, production or sound, but they're still both great albums. So whenever I'm just in that kind of German thrash mood, this is definitely a set that I pull out every once. I'll definitely pull out. It's just essential German thrash for me. So Assassin. Another one that I also really enjoy that definitely is considered a classic over years. That's, of course, is Death Row with Riders of Doom, which in some places, or depending on what copies you also got, it was also titled Satan's Gift. That was actually the second. That's actually the second title. It was originally, at some point, it was almost gonna be titled Riders of Doom, but the band didn't like the cover. They also didn't want it to be called Satan's Gift. They wanted it to be called Riders of Doom. But I'm not going to go on the complete story on the whole background of why the 2 different pressings or why it was titled. But it's just a solid German thrash album. Very raw, though, and just very aggressive in its approach. Though melodic in places, for sure. But it's still very much a good hardcore thrash metal album that just knows what it does. So Death Row, Riders of Doom. Now, speaking of another one, though, it's definitely on the raw side and definitely on the unapologetic side, too. But these guys are a little more closer, like Destruction. We're talking about Necronomicon with their second album, Apocalyptic Nightmare, which is the only Necronomicon album that I own. But this is still good. This is probably by far one of my favorites from Necronomicon. I've heard their first album many years ago, but to me, this one's probably one of their best ones for sure. Just, it's very Destruction sounding, very much. And if you love Destruction, especially albums like Infernal Overkill, or Eternal Damnation, or the, was it the Sentence of Death EP, I think was called? I can't remember what their EP was titled. I think it was Sentence of Death, if I'm correct. I can't remember. But if you like Destruction, especially those early albums, you'll love the hell out of this one. Definitely definitely a little sloppy in places, but I think it's what adds to the charm of this one. It's just great stuff. But it also kind of reminds me in places also of Celtic Frost or Celtic Frost, if any way, or how to pronounce their name. But they kind of in some places reminds me of them, especially like, the Morbid Tales EP, or To Make a Therion in places. It just has almost a slight Hellhammer, Celtic Frost feel to it in places as well, besides the Destruction sound. So definitely good stuff from Necronomicon. Now on to a more of a newer German speed thrash metal band. It's, of course, is Vulture, The Guillotine. Definitely want to pull this out and listen to it. Good album. The lyrics are definitely inspired by old school horror movies in places, but still good. Still good stuff. Love this. I know that Vulture had put out a new album this year, which I have yet to obtain, which I'm definitely looking forward if I ever get that to hear it. So there we go. The Guillotine from Vulture, because I've done review for this already. I did an album of the week spotlight on this, so just a great album from Vulture. Alright, so it's just now on to ones that are not either German or American, so we're just going to start with, I guess with mostly the classics here. Or just good ones here in general. Alright, first up is a classic British thrash sound from one of my favorite British thrash bands. I know playing in the background is, of course, is a British thrash band, which I'll probably shortly, you know what, here I'll just plug it in. Even though it's playing on my computer, because I did like a rip of it, but it's Virus, Force Recon. Classic album. I love that a lot. But this one, it's not Virus that I'm going to be talking about here. It's Onslaught with Power from Hell, the very first album. Which, my favorite Onslaught album is for sure The Force, but this one's good. This one definitely took many years to finally really appreciate for how good this one is for me. It's definitely, again, very closer to a lot of the German style of thrash. It's very Sodom influence. I could definitely compare this to, like, Obsessed by Cruelty by Sodom. But it's definitely good. It definitely has that Venom feel in place. It definitely has that Warfare kind of sound. Very punkish, but still very good. I still love this a lot. This is not a weak moment on this one. I guess the only weak moment could be the very last track called Mighty Empress, which is basically, I can't remember what classical piece it is, but it's one that I've heard used for various film scores, various trailers, and so on. It's just one of those that's just overly used a lot. But overall, besides that little complaint there, it's still a good album. I still love it from start to finish, so Power from Hell from Onslaught. Next up is another classic thrash one. These guys are based out of Switzerland. It's the only one I own from them. It's R.I.P. from Corner. Definitely one of everyone's favorites technical thrash metal bands. This Sam's our first one. It's great. This one was also produced by Harris Johns as well. Great stuff. Every time once in a while I do pull this one out, it's just good. There's just not a weak moment for me on this one, even though it's a little on the musical side, because there's definitely plenty of instrumentals and so on. It placed me in between, but to me, it doesn't take away the enjoyment for this album for me. It's still good. I still love this. I still have to get some of the other Corner albums, really check out those, but for sure, when I'm in that kind of mood, this sound is definitely a good one to pull out. So, R.I.P. from Corner. Next up is a more of obscure thrash number, though this one comes from a band who, they're out of the Netherlands, so it's a Dutch band, but they had definitely, if it wasn't for bringing this band, or because he talked about, Misto Disto, and I brought up the name that they ended up changing to, and if it wasn't for Metal Theologian kind of pointing out, it's definitely probably one of the more gayer kind of names, but not in a way that is kind of meant as an insult. Of course, it's Mandator, just let that name sink in there. I didn't register at the time when I first heard about these guys, but definitely if it wasn't for him pointing that out, I probably wouldn't have realized how kind of gay that name is. But I don't want to do that as kind of an insult. It just kind of comes out that way. Man-dater. But I don't mean that as an insult, so I hope that YouTube doesn't take that as hate speech. I really hope. So, anyways, Dutch speed metal, thrash metal band, originally named as Misto Disto, and released an album under that name, but it's still, they changed it. So they changed it to Mandator and released Initial Velocity. This is definitely a good album. It's definitely, I would say, this is pretty much what if Halloween decided to play thrash metal. Because it definitely has a Halloween feel, especially within the vocal department, which is our guy named Peter. He's very Michael Kiske sounding in places, especially when he hits a lot of those falsettos. He definitely reminds me a lot like Michael Kiske of Halloween. But overall, musically, it's definitely, in some places, it definitely has a German feel to it, but not in the sort of real raw, guttural German thrash, just more on the melodic kind of side. But still good, though. I still like it. It was released on the same label that Exhumer and Angel Dust and Backwater were on, which was, Disaster Records. Now, this CD copy is actually an unofficial release, but it's because it definitely really replicates a lot of the Disaster label and so on, and because of this is definitely not the for sure the Dark Descent reissue, but still I've had this one for a long time, and at the time when trying to obtain this particular pressing would have cost you an arm and a leg, so I found it for really fucking cheap years ago, really cheap, up in Reno actually. So just a classic album for me. It's a good one. I like it. Cool cover art though too, with Attila the Hun. Yeah. So Initial Velocity from Mandator. Last one's another newer one. Since I show Ranger, I'll definitely show one of my other favorite newer speed metal, thrash metal bands. That's Ranger. These guys are actually based out of Finland. This is Where Evil Dwells. Just a great album. Love this one from start to finish. Just nothing bad on here. I wish these guys would actually put out a new one, but I know there seems to be, I guess, issues with the band with trying to contain a good lineup. So they're going through a lot of lineup issues. So with that, still good album. Wish they would put out a new album. So with that, that's pretty much it. Definitely gone on for about 22 minutes because I think before then I was talking mostly bullshit, I guess, before actually getting into some of the music. So with that, hope you all enjoyed. This is Happy Thrasher Sam out. I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.